Stop. You think you know your own family? Think again. She ignored the emergency call from her sister's phone. It was 2 a.m., and she was exhausted. At that moment, it didn't seem important, just another one of Chloe's dramatic, late-night outbursts. But that one decision would cost her everything. Because what happened later that night, when she finally picked up the phone to hear a voice that shouldn't have existed, no one saw coming. Wait, are you ready to hear what she actually said? Because this truth, it's about to change how you look at the people closest to you. Lily Hart always lived in the shadows. That was her role. While her identical twin, Chloe, was the golden child, the one with the sparkling personality, the influencer lifestyle, and the picture-perfect relationship with Ethan Blake, Lily was the forgotten one. She was the one who handled the logistics, the one who stayed in the background, the one who cleaned up the messes. Lily didn't mind, or at least, that's what she told herself. She lived in a small, quiet apartment on the edge of the city, working as a freelance graphic designer. Her daily routine was simple, bordering on invisible. Coffee, emails, a quick scroll through social media to see Chloe's latest glitzy post with Ethan, then sleep. She was the anchor, and Chloe was the sail catching all the wind. "You're too serious, Lily," Chloe would say with that effortless, dazzling laugh whenever they met for lunch. "You need to live a little. Look at Ethan, he says you should get out more." Lily would just smile and nod. She loved her sister, even if the dynamic felt increasingly tilted. She saw the way Ethan looked at Chloe with a devotion that bordered on obsession. To the outside world, they were the perfect power couple. But Lily noticed things others didn't. She noticed the way Chloe would sometimes look at Ethan when he wasn't paying attention, not with love, but with a cold, calculating detachment. Asterisk, she always said, "I'll call back later," whenever Lily tried to bring it up. Asterisk. There was a hidden flaw in their perfection, a hairline fracture that only Lily seemed to see. It wasn't that Chloe was a bad person, it was that Chloe was asterisk performing star. And Lily was the only audience member who knew it was a show. Lily's life was calm, steady, and predictable. But there was something she didn't know. Something buried in the past that connected her to Ethan in ways she couldn't possibly imagine. Her life was a closed book, a carefully constructed silence. She felt safe in her obscurity. But everything was about to change. It started with a delivery. A plain, unmarked envelope left at her door without a return address. Inside, there was no letter, no explanation, only a single, grainy photograph of Ethan Blake standing in front of a house Lily recognized instantly. Their childhood home, the one that had burned down 15 years ago. The house where the other version of their history was supposed to have died. Lily stared at the photo, her heart hammering against her ribs. Why would Ethan be there? Why now? She reached for her phone to call Chloe, but her thumb hovered over the screen. A strange, primal instinct told her to wait. She felt a sudden, inexplicable shiver. She looked at the clock. 11:45 p.m. She hadn't heard from Chloe in 3 days, which was unusual. Usually, the phone was pinging with updates about dinner plans, fashion shoots, or some minor crisis involving Ethan. The silence from her sister's side felt heavy, almost suffocating. She put the phone down and walked to the window, peering out at the dark, rain-slicked street. She felt like she was being watched, but when she looked down, there was only the empty pavement. She shook off the feeling, telling herself it was just stress. She was tired. She was overthinking. She walked back to her desk and sat down, staring at the photo once more. The edges of the paper were singed, just like the memories she had been trying to suppress for over a decade. She felt a knot of dread forming in her stomach, a dark, heavy weight that warned her of what was coming. She didn't know it then, but she had already started down a path she couldn't turn back from. The forgotten twin was about to become the center of a storm that would shatter the foundation of everything she held dear. But wait, it gets worse. Because the photo wasn't just a threat. It was an invitation. Everything was about to change. And she was the only one who didn't know the full story yet. The silence from Chloe's phone wasn't just quiet, it was deafening. By the next morning, the unease that had settled in Lily's gut had curdled into genuine panic. She tried calling again, then messaged Ethan. Nothing. Not even an automated read receipt. Lily paced her small apartment, the grainy photo of Ethan at their old, burned-down house sitting on her table like a ticking bomb. She kept telling herself it was a mistake. Maybe they were away. Maybe they lost their phones. But the logic didn't hold. People like Chloe and Ethan didn't just vanish from the digital world without a trace. Her phone suddenly blared, vibrating violently against the hardwood table. Lily lunged for it. Caller ID, unknown. She picked up, her voice tight. Hello. Silence. Only the sound of heavy, rhythmic breathing on the other end. Chloe. Is that you? This isn't funny. Still, only the breathing. Then, a sharp, mechanical click, and the line went dead. That was her mistake. She should have hung up the moment she saw the unknown ID. But the fear for her sister had bypassed her common sense. Lily's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She decided to drive to the luxury apartment complex where Chloe and Ethan lived. It was a 30-minute drive, but it felt like hours. Every car in her rearview mirror looked like it was following her. She kept checking her phone, hoping for a text, a call, anything to snap her back to reality. When she arrived at the high-rise, the lobby was unnervingly empty. The doorman, a man she had seen a dozen times, gave her a strange, pitying look as she walked toward the elevators. "You're here for the package, right?" he asked. Lily froze. "Package? No, I'm here to see my sister. Chloe Hart." The doorman's face went pale. He didn't answer, just turned his back and started tapping aggressively on his computer screen. "Hey, what's going on?" Lily demanded, her voice rising. But he ignored her. She didn't wait. She bolted for the elevators, heart hammering. When she reached their floor, she didn't bother knocking. She used the emergency key Chloe had given her months ago, one she'd promised she would never use. The door swung open, and the air inside was thick, smelling faintly of smoke and expensive perfume. But it was the silence that hit her hardest. The apartment was pristine, almost sterile. It looked like a showroom, no clothes on the floor, no half-finished coffee, no trace of the chaotic, vibrant life Chloe usually led. "Chloe." She walked into the living room. Everything was in its place, but there was a deep, unsettling wrongness to it. She moved toward the bedroom. The closet door was hanging open. Empty. Every single hanger, every single shoe, gone. She didn't go on a trip, Lily whispered to herself. She was erased. She heard a floorboard creak in the hallway. But wait, it gets worse. She turned around, expecting to see Ethan or perhaps a building manager. Instead, she saw nothing. Just the hallway, stretching out like a dark tunnel. But then, she noticed a single, red lipstick mark on the white wall near the bedroom door. She stepped closer, her breath hitching. It wasn't just a smudge. It was a word. Run. Lily stumbled back, her head spinning. She pulled out her phone to call the police, but her screen flickered and went black. She tapped it, frantically trying to reboot, but it was dead, not just out of battery, but unresponsive. She looked at the lipstick mark again. It was fresh. If someone had been here, they had left seconds before she arrived. She ran to the kitchen, desperate for anything, a landline, a charger, a sense of safety. As she opened the junk drawer, she saw something that made her blood run cold. It was a stack of passports. She pulled them out, her fingers clumsy. There were 4 of them. All of them had Ethan's photo. But each one had a different name. And there, buried underneath, was one with Chloe's photo, but the name on the passport wasn't Chloe Hart. It was Elena Vance. "Who are you?" Lily whispered, the walls of the apartment feeling like they were closing in. She realized then that the life she had been witnessing, the billionaire romance, the social media glitz, was a mask. But what was it hiding? She looked at the counter and saw a tablet that had been left behind, seemingly in a rush. It was open to a browser tab. It was a bank ledger. Millions of dollars were being funneled through shell accounts, all originating from an entity called the Forgotten Estate. Her breath came in ragged gasps. She clicked on a document named Project Twin. The file was a series of medical reports. They were dated 15 years ago, from the time of the fire that killed their parents. As she scrolled, her eyes locked onto a section labeled Subject A and Subject B. She saw her own name. Subject B, Lily Hart. Status, terminated. Lily slumped to the floor. Terminated? She was standing right here. She was breathing. How could she be terminated? She read further. The report detailed an insurance payout, a massive one, collected by a legal guardian she barely remembered. A guardian who was, according to the documents, none other than Ethan Blake's father. It wasn't a romance. It was a long-game, multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. And they weren't just using her sister, they were using her. Suddenly, the front door clicked. The sound of a key turning in the lock echoed through the silence of the apartment. Lily didn't think. She dove behind the kitchen island, clutching the documents to her chest. "I know you're here, Lily," a voice called out. It was Ethan. But it wasn't the voice of the man she knew. It was cold, sharp, and entirely devoid of the warmth he used to display for Chloe. "You were never meant to come here," he continued, his footsteps heavy and deliberate as he walked into the living room. "You were supposed to stay in your little studio, playing the part of the forgotten twin until we were ready for the final act." Lily held her breath, praying he would walk into the bedroom instead of the kitchen. "You think this is a game?" He laughed, a hollow, chilling sound. "Chloe didn't run away, Lily. She wanted out. She wanted the money for herself." And then, silence. Lily waited, her heart hammering so loudly she was certain he could hear it. She looked down at the documents, her eyes catching a final, devastating detail at the bottom of the page. But that wasn't even the worst part. Ethan stopped pacing. He was standing just feet away from the kitchen island, his shadow stretching long and menacing across the floor. Lily squeezed her eyes shut, pressing her hand over her mouth to muffle her own breathing. "I know you found the documents, Lily," he said, his voice dropping into a low, predatory register. "But you're looking at the wrong set of numbers. You think this is about money? Money is the bait. You're the real asset." Lily's pulse roared in her ears. What did he mean, the asset? She shifted slightly, her elbow brushing against a stray magazine on the floor. The soft thud sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. Ethan's footsteps stopped instantly. He turned toward the kitchen. "Come out, Lily. There's no point in hiding. The locks are already engaged from the outside. You aren't leaving this apartment until we finish what your sister started." Lily's mind raced. She looked at the window, but they were on the 20th floor. She looked at the back service door, but she heard a second pair of footsteps approaching from the hallway, a heavier, more deliberate tread. Here's where everything changed. She grabbed a heavy glass vase from the counter, the only weapon she had. As Ethan rounded the corner, his face twisted in a sneer, she didn't cower. She didn't cry. She swung. He dodged easily, grabbing her wrist with a grip like iron. The vase shattered against the floor, glass spraying everywhere. Ethan shoved her against the counter, his eyes burning with a terrifying, cold intensity. "You always were the boring one," he hissed. Chloe had a spark. She understood the game. You just exist to be a placeholder. Where is she?" Lily gasped, struggling to break his hold. "Where is she?" Ethan mimicked, laughing bitterly. "She's exactly where she needs to be. She's the face of the brand, Lily. She's the one collecting the checks, making the appearances, and selling the lie to millions of people while I pull the strings. But she's tired. She wants to retire. And that's where you come in. But wait, it gets worse. He pulled his phone out and tapped a command. A screen on the wall flickered to life, showing a live video feed. It was a dark, windowless room. A figure was tied to a chair. It was Chloe. Her clothes were torn, her face bruised, but her eyes were defiant. "She tried to double-cross me," Ethan said, watching the screen with a sickening indifference. "She thought she could walk away with the payout. Now, she's just a liability. And once I have your biometrics, your eyes, your prints, your voice, I won't need her anymore." Lily felt the air leave her lungs. It wasn't just fraud, it was a total identity heist. "What do you want from me?" "Everything," He whispered. Your life. Your face. Your history. By the end of the night, Lily Hart will be officially dead. And you'll be the new face of the empire. The weight of his words hit Lily like a physical blow. She wasn't just being kidnapped, she was being erased. You're insane, she breathed, her mind racing. I'm a businessman, Ethan countered, tightening his grip on her arm. And you are the missing piece of the puzzle. Suddenly, the secondary door opened. A woman entered, not the police, not a hero, but a surgical technician carrying a metal case. Lily's heart sank. This wasn't a random kidnapping, this was a pre-planned, clinical operation. You have 10 minutes, the woman said, her voice robotic and cold. The transfer process needs to be precise. If there's any struggle, the facial reconstruction won't hold. Ethan dragged Lily toward the center of the room, where a specialized reclining chair had been set up, hidden behind a decorative wall panel. Everything felt surreal, like a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Asterisk emotional wave, tension to shock. Asterisk. As he forced her toward the chair, Lily's gaze locked onto Chloe's face on the screen. Chloe was watching them. She was mouthing something. Asterisk don't. Look. Away. Asterisk. Lily squinted, her focus narrowing. Chloe wasn't just watching, she was subtly nodding toward the floor, right near the kitchen island where the broken glass lay. Asterisk callback technique, that call she ignored. Asterisk. Lily remembered the emergency call from the beginning. Asterisk the one she ignored. Asterisk she realized now, with a jolt of terrifying clarity, that the call hadn't been from Chloe, it had been an automated alert from a hidden app on her own phone, the one she had been trying to ignore for months. It was a digital trigger, a failsafe Chloe had installed for this exact moment. Lily reached into her pocket. Her phone was dead, but the external battery pack she kept for her graphic design work was still attached to the case. She clicked the power button. The screen flashed on. She only had 3% battery. She tapped the app icon, the one Chloe had told her, years ago, to never open unless you're in real trouble. The app didn't open a game. It opened a broadcast. What are you doing? Ethan growled, seeing the light from the screen. He lunged for it, but Lily was faster. She threw the phone across the room, toward the service elevator. The device hit the sensor, the elevator doors slid open, and the broadcast went live to every one of their millions of followers. Ethan spun around, his face a mask of pure rage. You fool, he roared. Do you have any idea what you just did? I just stopped your show, Lily screamed. The room erupted. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting louder by the second. Ethan's composure shattered. He looked at the screen, then at the elevator, realizing his empire was disintegrating in real time. He turned back to Lily, his face twisted in a primal, desperate fury. And in that moment, everything changed. He raised his hand, but the sound of the police crashing through the front door echoed through the apartment. Silence. Then, the final confrontation began. The arrest was a blur of flashing blue lights, shouting, and the cold, hard weight of handcuffs snapping onto Ethan's wrists. He didn't even fight back, he just stared at the wall, watching the tablet where his digital empire was being dismantled by the very followers who had once adored him. The broadcast had gone viral instantly, and the world was watching the collapse of the perfect couple in real time. Lily sat on the floor, surrounded by investigators and medics, the adrenaline slowly leaving her body and leaving behind a hollow, shivering exhaustion. She watched as they brought Chloe out from the back room. Her twin was battered and pale, but she was alive. When their eyes met, the years of distance, the resentment over the forgotten role, and the jealousy of the glamour dissolved. Chloe walked over and sat beside her, leaning her head on Lily's shoulder. I'm sorry, Chloe whispered, her voice raspy. I tried to hide the truth from you to keep you safe. I thought if I stayed in the spotlight, if I played the part, he would never come for you. Lily looked at her sister not as the influencer, not as the golden child, but as the person who had endured a nightmare to keep her hidden in the shadows. You didn't protect me, Lily replied softly, you just made me the last piece of a broken puzzle. The aftermath was long. There were months of legal battles, endless interviews, and the slow, painful process of reconstructing their lives from the ruins of the fraud. The story of the forgotten twin and the orchestrator who tried to steal an identity became a global phenomenon, a cautionary tale about the hollow nature of digital perfection. Lily moved away. She traded the city for a small, quiet town where the name Hart meant nothing. She kept designing, but she stopped looking for the limelight. She found peace in the mundane, the steady rhythm of a quiet life, the simplicity of work that was honest, and the slow, deliberate pace of healing. She never checked her social media again. She didn't need the validation, and she certainly didn't need the curiosity of strangers. She learned that some things, the most important things, were never meant to be shared. Chloe eventually moved on, too, though she took a different path. She became an advocate for digital safety, spending her time exposing the very systems that had once held her hostage. They rarely spoke about the night in the apartment. The memory of the red lipstick on the wall and the sound of Ethan's voice was a scar they both carried, but it was a scar that had finally allowed them to see the truth of who they were. They weren't forgotten or popular. They were just survivors. The ending. The lesson wasn't about the money, or the fame, or the dark secrets Ethan kept. It was about the cost of living a life meant for someone else. Lily walked down to the beach, the waves crashing against the sand in a slow, rhythmic lull. She felt the sun on her face, real sun, not the artificial lighting of a studio or the filter of a camera. She took a deep breath, the air clean and cold. Sometimes, she whispered to the ocean, one moment changes everything. She finally understood that the moment she ignored that call wasn't the mistake. The mistake was waiting for someone else to tell her who she was supposed to be. She was no longer a twin in a shadow. She was just Lily. And for the first time, that was more than enough. What about you? If you were in Lily's position, would you have ignored that first call, or would you have picked it up and risked everything? Tell me in the comments, I'm reading every single one.